You used to talk until 2 in the morning. Now you argue about the dishwasher. There's still laughter, but it's quieter, buried under dishes and deadlines. That's still love, just a different chapter. We grow up believing love should feel like a movie. The spark, the chase, the kiss. The moment the music swells and the credits roll, we're taught that when you finally find your person, the story is complete. But no one ever told us what happens after the ending, after the lights come up, after the montage, after the magic settles into something quieter. Somewhere along the way, we absorbed a myth that real love is supposed to stay cinematic forever, and that if it doesn't, we must be with the wrong person. We learn to measure the health of a relationship by its excitement, the novelty, or the drama. But the stories that last aren't the ones filled with fireworks. They're the ones that figure out how to keep going when the spark fades and the ordinary takes over. Every couple begins with a version of enchantment. Two people see each other across a room, and for a while, everything feels illuminated. Every word feels significant. Every touch feels like confirmation. In the beginning, we fall in love with possibility, the version of ourselves that love allows us to imagine. We see our partner as an answer, a mirror, a beautiful way out of our own loneliness, and the world briefly feels clear. But infatuation isn't home. It's the hallway. Eventually, reality sets in. The laundry, the bills, the tired silence that fills the room after a long day. The very things that make a shared life real are the things we were never taught to appreciate. So the small irritations begin to appear, the way they leave lights on, or talk too loudly, or need more reassurance than we know how to give. The quirks that once made them magnetic start to feel like friction. And one night, sitting side by side, you look over and wonder, where did the magic go? It's easy to think that when the magic fades, something has gone wrong, that love should always feel weightless and extraordinary. But maybe love isn't meant to stay a rush of dopamine and anticipation. Maybe it's less about magic and more about maintenance. The shift from passion to practice is one of the hardest transitions any relationship faces. And it's where most stories stop, and where real love quietly begins. Over time, we stop performing our best selves. The charm and patience that came so easily at first start to fray. We get comfortable, and in that comfort, we also get careless. We take one another for granted. We tell ourselves there's time to make it right, until one day there isn't. And then, one day the distance feels like a third person in the room. What no one tells you is that this stage, the disillusionment, the frustration, the boredom, isn't proof that love is dying. It's proof that love has finally begun. The first stage of love is projection, seeing the person we want to see. The second is revelation, deciding whether we can love them once we see the rest. Think back to your first fight, the silence after it, the fear that maybe you'd ruined something. And then, you didn't. You came back. That's what real love looks like, not the avoidance of tension, but the return from it. This is where the work begins, the slow, unglamorous work of understanding another person's interior world and letting them see yours. The kind of work that demands honesty, patience, and the willingness to stay even when it's uncomfortable. Love isn't a permanent state. It's a daily discipline. 1,000 small decisions to stay kind, curious, and close. At some point, everyone who has loved deeply will face the temptation of elsewhere, the quiet pull toward something new. A stranger who laughs at your jokes again, a version of yourself that feels lighter, less known, the fantasy of being seen without history. It's not necessarily about betrayal. It's about longing for the simplicity of firsts, that early infatuation where you don't yet have to deal with the weight of being truly known. You'll want to leave, and you'll even imagine it. That's normal. But here's the truth most of us don't want to face. If you were to start over, you'd eventually end up here again. The chemistry would fade, the patterns would return, the ordinary would still arrive. Because the problem was never the person. It's the myth that love should feel new forever. The high of infatuation and the peace of companionship are two different worlds, and no one gets to live in both at once. To choose long-term love is to accept that adventure and safety can't coexist without tension. You can have excitement or security, spontaneity or stability, but never all of them in full supply. Real love asks for trade-offs. You give up the thrill of being discovered in exchange for the comfort of being understood. Every love story has a cost. Every cost is a kind of devotion. Love becomes less about finding perfection and more about learning to live kindly with the imperfect. Less about being adored, and more about being understood, on good days and bad ones. The couples who last aren't the ones who never fight. They're the ones who fight with the hope of repair. They know that conflict isn't a sign of failure. It's an invitation to grow closer if handled with care. They stay curious instead of certain. They say, "Help me understand," instead of, "You always do this." There will be times when love feels still, times when the spark is barely visible, weeks or months when connection feels like effort, when tenderness has to be chosen consciously. That doesn't mean the love has vanished. It means it's waiting to be tended to. The miracle isn't that it never fades. The miracle is that it can return. And yet there's no denying the ache that comes with routine. Every long-term relationship lives between two poles, the desire for freedom and the need for safety. The wish to be completely known and the wish to start again. You can't have both, at least not fully. But there's something quietly heroic about staying, not out of duty, but out of devotion. Choosing one person over and over again isn't the absence of adventure. It's a different kind of courage. Real love, the kind that lasts, will always include disappointment. There will be days when you don't like the person you love. Moments when you fantasize about escape, or about a version of yourself that existed before responsibility arrived. You'll question your capacity for patience, your ability to forgive, and your willingness to keep trying. And still, you'll stay. Not because you've settled, but because you've grown. Because at some point you realize that love isn't about avoiding pain. It's about choosing which kind of pain is worth it. The ache of compromise, the vulnerability of being seen, the humility of being wrong, or the tenderness of beginning again. Every relationship requires that we identify the kind of imperfection we're willing to love. But this isn't a bleak conclusion. It's liberating. It means we can stop chasing the impossible ideal of happily ever after and start embracing. This is good enough, and we're still growing. It means we can stop judging our relationships by their excitement and start valuing them for their steadiness. The ordinary moments are the real love story. The quiet coffee, the text that says home soon, the hand that finds yours in the dark. There's a quiet kind of romance that lives in long-term love, the one that shows up after the storm, after the silence, after the small forgiveness. It's not grand, but it's grounded. It's not fiery, but it's faithful. It's the love that keeps showing up, and maybe that's the kind we were meant to learn all along. So if you find yourself in a season where love feels dull or uncertain, remember, this isn't the end of the story. It's the middle, the part no one wrote the soundtrack for. The part where you have to keep choosing to listen, to soften, and to stay curious. The part where you realize that the work of love isn't to preserve perfection, but to practice patience, to find beauty in the quiet, to keep showing up even when the movie has ended. Because that's what real love asks of us. Not endless excitement, but daily attention. Not unbroken harmony, but the courage to repair. Not a perfect fit, but a continued willingness to meet each other halfway. Love begins in infatuation, thrives with maintenance, and survives in mercy. The movies end at the kiss, but true love begins after. So, if you're living this right now, the quiet, complicated stage, you're not failing at love. You're finally in it. Like and subscribe for more thoughtful takes on love, relationships, and peace.